Right, so today we'll have our lecture on Research 1. So our topic will be about descriptive statistics. So this is a make-up class na for your class, no? So yeah, sige. So descriptive stat, this is actually a very important topic for you to learn. Why? Because all of the things that you'll be learning for this afternoon are actually essential for you during the conduct of your research sa inyong thesis of physio, and of course when you go to your pharma on your second year. So yan, I hope you will listen. I know some of the concepts probably alam nyo na yung ibang concepts here kasi descriptive stat, ano ba yung descriptive stat? Very easy lang naman yun, no? Yung mga mean median mode, yung mga ganun. But I am here to somehow reinforce your learning siguro way back in college. I'm sure meron kayong mga statistics, elementary statistics or biostatistic courses before. So I'm just here to reinforce your learning about that and to just clarify something siguro and to make you understand the topic better. And also, yeah, help you on choosing what actual statistical tools you will need or you will use during your conduct of your research. All right, so I hope you'll all listen attentively to this lecture. So it's quite technical, so makinig tayo ha, kasi medyo sa start kasi ng statistics, dito na medyo nahihirapan yung mga students, no, when it comes to research. So I hope you listen, especially sa next lecture nyo with Sir Lindo. I think he will give you the lecture on analytical stat or on inferential stat. So listen carefully talaga, ha? Okay, so this will serve as your parang foundation for you to understand the next topic for this course, Research 1. All right. So let's start. So for this afternoon session, we will all learn about descriptive statistics and its role in health research. And of course, we will be defining biostatistics as well as a review. And then we'll all go back and learn again the different measures of central tendency, dispersion, and location. And we'll talk about graphs and tables, when to use them and how to use them. So there are actually, we don't just use graphs just because maganda siya, no? We just pick it out kasi maganda tingnan, no? Murag gwapo ni sa ato ang papers, butang nato na graph. So it doesn't work that way, ha? There are proper ways to use different graphs. Okay, the line graph ba yan? Whether line graph, bar graph, is it a horizontal bar or a vertical bar graph? Or pie chart pa yung gagamitin natin. So merong proper ways or parang may guide on when to use them. Okay, and of course, lastly, we will choose you will learn how to choose the appropriate descriptive tools for different variables. All right. So let's define biostatistics first. So biostat is the science of analyzing and interpreting the results or the data so that we can apply it to our field, which is for us, of course, it is the medical field, so health field, no? And of course, we all know that biostat di lang naman siya applicable sa atin sa medical field but also to other fields as well, like biology, environmental science, and all other related fields. Okay, currently, trends in biostatistics are actually we are shifting towards the use of AI in answering mga biostatistical questions. But remember nyo lang na AI, it's not yet perfect in answering mga biostatistical tools as of the moment, okay? As of the time of this lecture, hindi pa perfect yung AI natin. Sometimes I still encounter, I've actually tried using AI for answering mga analysis on, let's say, yung odds ratio. I've tried using AI once. And sometimes may mga error siya na nako-commit during kapag nag-compute siya ng odds ratio. So just be very careful minsan in using AI for computation kasi again, hindi pa siya perfect. So also siya masyadong madali i-convince si AI na mali yung sagot niya kahit tama naman. So just be very careful in using AI. Hindi ko naman sinasabi na don't use it, absolutely don't use AI. Probably as of the moment, huwag niyo muna siyang i-consider. So our statistical softwares are still very useful and very powerful for computation of statistical problems. Okay, so probably soon, AI is evolving very fast. AI right now is very entirely different from the AI that we've had a year ago. So I'm sure sooner or later AI will evolve into a parang a statistical ano na rin no software. So just ano lang talaga. For now, wag niyo muna siyang i-consider. All right? So use pa as may mga ano muna, proper statistical softwares and tools that we have. Okay? I know all the computations right now hindi naman na ginagawa nating manual, no? Most of our computations are actually done ano na siya, through computer, through softwares, even through Excel, no? Dali lang naman mag-compute ng mga statistical values through Excel. So, yan lang. Use your tools appropriately lang and properly. All right? Wait lang ha, parang this is the wrong PowerPoint. Teka lang. I'll share ulit. Wala siya. Mhm. Save lang. Okay, let's continue. Um, So there are two main branches of biostat, if you can still remember, siguro from your college days, no? So remember, meron tayong descriptive and we also have our analytic or inferential statistics. So for this session, we will talk about the descriptive part of biostatistics. Okay, so for the purpose of of descriptive statistics is actually for us to, the main purpose of it is to summarize data from a sample or even from a population, from a bigger population. So um, an example of a tool that we use as a descriptive stat would be yung mean. So just computing for the average, that's already a descriptive statistical tool, no? Yung mean. Okay? So, ayan. And we also have, of course, the second branch is your inferential stat. So, ano ba yung inferential stat? So, through inferential statistic, we can actually draw conclusion about a population from a sample. So, we can actually infer from a sample to our population. So what we usually do with inferential stat is that we test hypothesis, we check for associations, we check for relationships between different variables. So yan yung inferential statistics. So for example, yung testing if men and women have different BMI through let's say Z test or T test, whatever test that you have there. So yan yung inferential stat. So again, for this session, of course, we will talk about descriptive stat. So ano ba yung use ng descriptive stat? So descriptive stat statistics help researchers understand the sample before inference. So in the epidemiologic approach to disease or in research, no, we actually start with descriptive researches first before we actually do inferential researches or analytical researches. So what does it mean? So usually, for example, sa EPID, we start with case studies. Okay, we start with cases na nakita natin unusual, for example, an unusual case. We start with that one, and then from a single case, we collate different case studies and then we do case series, or we can also do prevalence studies. So yun yung mga descriptive studies na pwede natin gawin, no? So we always start with that before we actually do experimental cohorts, yung mga observational study designs like yung cohort, yung cross-sectional or the cross-sectional na analytic study, or probably a case control study. So we all start with descriptive ones before we proceed to the higher study designs. So yun yung parang kumbaga that's the main purpose of descriptive stats, no? So it helps us understand the sample before we can do inference, or we can do inferential calculations. Then it is also used to detect data errors and outliers. So by summarizing your data, by collating your data, pag na-summarize mo na siya, checking the variability of your data, you can actually check for if there are any errors, baka may mga super extreme na outliers na naka-affect sa value ng iyong data. So that can actually be assessed using or through descriptive statistics. And it can provide context for hypothesis testing. So it can serve as a precursor for us to do inferential stat. And it can help us facilitate communication to our stakeholders and policymakers. So for example, when you go to the field, when you go to, let's say, when you're done with your researches, Okay, so yung target market, yung respondents are mga, what's this? Mga jeepney drivers. No? So, how do you present your result to your jeepney drivers? So, hindi naman siguro tayo magpapakita ng t-test, no, t-statistics or computed z-statistic to our jeepney drivers because they won't understand that. So, what we usually do is we present them using tables, using graphs, para mas madaling ma-understand ng ating mga stakeholders. So, that's the purpose of descriptive stat. And that's why you need to learn how to properly use our descriptive statistical tools. Okay, very useful ang descriptive stat. All right. Now, in statistics, there are certain levels of analysis. So we have 3 levels. We have the univariate, bivariate, and multivariate analysis. When you talk about univariate analysis, it's a level of analysis wherein we just describe one variable. So ito yung ginagamit natin when we actually compute for proportions, we compute for prevalence, incidence, we compute for means, mga median, mode. Yan siya, univariate analysis lang yan siya. Okay? So when you talk about bivariate analysis, on the other hand, this is when you actually analyze 2 variables. That's why it's called bivariate, dalawang variable. So bivariable. So bivariate analysis. So when you would want to establish associations between 2 different variables, that's already a bivariate type of analysis. So this is what we usually do when we do mga cohort studies, when we would want to establish association between a risk factor to a certain disease, that's already a bivariate type of analysis. Also, and then the last, the highest of all of these 3 is actually this one, yung multivariate analysis, wherein we actually analyze multiple variables. That's why it's called multivariables. We do use multivariate tools like your regression models, yung multivariate regression models natin. So we use that, yung mga logistic regression, in analyzing more than variables that more than 2 na variables. Okay? So yun yung meaning ng mga multivariate, univariate, bivariate na yan. So sometimes na ma-overwhelm tayo, makita natin bivariate sa mani. So yan lang yung meaning niyan sa ating mga statistical analysis, no? Number of variables that we are analyzing. So pag nakita mo multivariate, automatic, maraming variables yung ina-assess dito, yung relationship ng multiple variables. Okay, so ayan, I hope that's clear for everyone. All right, so these types of analysis or levels of analysis will actually dictate, no, or sorry, the type of study design that you will be using will actually dictate somehow the type of or the level of analysis that you'll be doing. For example, case series. Ano ba yung case series? Diba case series is an aggregation of different cases that we put together, we analyze, we check for their means, their median, ano ba yung mga chine-check dyan, yung mga commonalities between all of the cases, then we check them. That's actually a case series. So in that sense, you are just actually basically checking each variables, one variable. We are not looking for associations there. Check lang natin kung madami ba sa kanila yung may ganitong exposure, madami ba sa kanila, how much among the cases have this type of outcome, ilan sa kanila yung may ganitong exposure. So yan lang yung case series. So we are just checking on each of the different variables. Isa lang. We are not establishing associations. So therefore, we are just doing univariate analysis on this sa level na ito. So itong may bar. Yan, straight bar. So for cross-sectional survey, so cross-sectional studies, ano ba yung ginagawa? Di ba we are checking for the prevalence of the risk factors and the prevalence of the outcome among the study population. So we can actually do univariate analysis in that sense. However, sometimes we compute for the relationship between that specific risk factor and that outcome, especially if established yung temporality that the risk factor occurred before the outcome. So pwede natin gawan ng somehow ng konting correlation. So we can do further study. So ito na yung tinatawag na cross-sectional analytic type of study. And in that sense, we are using or we are doing bivariate analysis already. Okay? Because we are comparing 2 different variables, the relationship between the 2. Now, for all of these other all of these study designs, yung case control, yung cohort, experimental, all of these would require us to compare the risk factor, the relationship of the risk factor to the outcome. So therefore, we are doing multivariate analysis on these three. Sometimes, however, we can actually study multiple outcomes, or probably study multiple risk factors related to a certain health outcome. So that's why sometimes we can also do multivariate analysis. Kaya naka-dashed line ito. It depends on the study, the objectives of your study. But yeah, so yan yung relationship ng analytic plan and your study approach. Okay, so now that we know the basics of those different types of analysis, let's now talk about the basics of descriptive statistics, or even biostat. No, so when you study a certain when you have a research question, of course we always think about the variables in our study. Okay? So remember niyo yung variable versus constant, 'di ba? Diba yun yung lagi na introduction part ng statistics sa atin, ng variable versus constant. What is a constant? What is a variable? So I don't need to explain kung ano yung constant. No, I think we all know about that one kasi since review na lang din ito for you. So since you already had your statistics before, no? So a constant is anything that doesn't change, 'di ba? So like ano ba? Pi, the value of pi, it doesn't change unless may maka-discover ng bagong value ng pi. But yeah, it is established, no? And what else? Gravity, it's also a constant. So all of those things are constant, no? When you talk about variable, so this is anything na nandun sa inyong respondent or yung sample nyo that can change. Okay, that can have more than one value that can actually change, no? Like ano ba? Age, their sex, their annual income. So languages spoken at home, frequency of alcohol ingestion, cholesterol level. So anything that can vary from sample to sample, that's your variable. Or anything that can vary from sample to sample or through time. What else? FBS levels, ano pa ba? Blood type. So those are all variables. Okay? So I guess it's very self-explanatory kung ano yung meaning ng variable, no? So now let's go to, when you talk about variables, there are also certain levels of measurement. So we actually measure these variables, right? And there are certain levels of measurements that we actually use to determine these different variables. Okay, and sometimes yung levels of measurement, we also call them as types of variables. But I think it's more appropriate, mas maganda yung levels of measurement. So the lowest level among all of them is this one, yung nominal variable, yung nominal type of variable. So this variable is also known as your categorical na variable. So what is a categorical variable? So this has values that represent no inherent rank or order. So any lang siya na variable na walang rank or order. For example, biological sex, di ba? Or biological sex assigned at birth, like male, female. Wala naman siyang order, right? Blood type. Ano ba yung mga inherent, ano ba yung blood type, di ba? A positive, B positive, AB, and so on. So, no inherent rank or order. Wala namang order yung blood type, di ba? So, yan yung nominal. So, it's the lowest among all levels of measurement for variables. So, a subtype of nominal variable is this what we call as dichotomous variables. Ano ba yung mga dichotomous nominal variables? So, these are the variables that has two possible answers only. So, a very common example would be your binomial variable that is coded to having only two values, 0 and 1. So, ginagamit siya for coding, ginagamit siya for, usually for coding, especially for researches, we usually use this one para mas madali ma-interpret ng machine yung ating results. So, we code, for example, yes, 1, no, 0, or sometimes male 1, female 0. So, yan yung dichotomous, yung binomial type of variable. Okay, so other examples of nominal variables, you have your marital status, ano pa, religion, nationality, type of infection acquired, or anything that, again, that doesn't have a order. So that's your nominal variable. Okay, so let's proceed. Ordinal variable. What is an ordinal variable? So an ordinal variable is any any variable that has a rank. So my order, my rank. That's why it's called ordinal or ranked variable. So my order or my rank. So responses usually for this type of variable span from first to last, from best to worst, from most favorable to least favorable, from always to never, from disagree to agree, strongly disagree to strongly agree. So lahat ng may rank, that's that's a type of so that is an ordinal variable. So an example would be what? Your educational attainment, socioeconomic status, the Likert scale, 5-point, 10-point Likert scale. So those are examples of ordinal variables. Cancer staging is also a type of ordinal variable. Kasi di ba may order naman yung cancer stage natin, 1, 2, 3, 4. So yan. Satisfaction rating as well, that's a type of an ordinal variable. All right. So yan, ordinal variable. Now let's these first two variables are actually more of a qualitative type of variable. So ibig sabihin, qualitative, walang numbers involved. Usually sometimes may number, di ba? Minsan may number itong ordinal kasi for example, Likert scale, pwede mo naman siyang score ng 1 to 5 or pwede naman yung cancer stage 1, 2, 3, 4. However, these numbers do not really represent anything. They just represent a certain category. So that's why it's still considered as a qualitative type of variable. So the next two levels of measurement are now quantitative types of variable. So first is your interval. So interval is a numeric variable. So again, quanti variable for which a value of 0 does not indicate the absence of that specific characteristic. So ibig sabihin, there's no absolute 0. I mean, there's no absolute 0 in this level of measurement. So an example would be this one, ito, temperature. Kapag sinabi mong 0 degrees ang temperature outside, it doesn't mean na walang temperature, right? It doesn't mean na wala kang mafe-feel na temperature. There will still be temperature. Of course, it will be very cold if it's 0 degrees Celsius. So, kahit 0 siya, meron pa rin. May presence pa rin ng specific characteristic. Okay? So, that's interval. Wait lang ha. Parang nawala siya. So, another example would be yung Fahrenheit mo. Fahrenheit is also another scale. Kapag sinabi mong 0 degrees Fahrenheit, it doesn't mean na wala talaga, no? So, ayan. And then, the highest among the levels of measurement will, of course, be your ratio. So, ratio is a type of numeric variable that can be plotted on a scale on which a value of 0 indicates the total absence of that specific characteristic. Okay? So, kapag sinabi mong 0 yung, let's say, ito, weight. Pag sinabi mong 0 yung weight, wala talagang timbang yung item. Or ibig sabihin, it's either wala sa timbang talaga or absent, wala talaga yung item. Right? So, that's, again, ratio if it has an absolute 0. So, if that specific measurement for that specific ratio variable is 0, wala talaga siya. Another example would be your length, width, height. So all of those, kapag 0 centimeters, so wala talaga, right? So yun, that's your ratio or the ratio variable. Okay. Sige. Let's continue. So these two different quantitative types of variables, you can actually further subclassify them into two. So your ratio and your interval, therefore, can be subclassified as continuous or discrete. So these two quantity variables, you can further subclassify as continuous or discrete. Kapag sinabing continuous, ano bang meaning ng continuous? Literal na meaning niya sa Tagalog, tuloy-tuloy, no? So walang gaps in between. Therefore, continuous variables are numeric variables that can take on any value within a range. So all types of variables wherein you can have a measurement with a decimal point, then that is considered as a continuous variable. Okay, so one example would be your height. Your height, diba? Height, you can have it in centimeters. So meron naman tayong decimal sa centimeters. Like it would still mean something, right? So that is an example of a continuous variable. So an example of a discrete variable, discrete variable on the other hand is any numeric variable that is not continuous. Malamang, no? So anything that you can generate by counting items. So it has gaps in between the items. So kapag sinabing 1 talaga. So an example would be, kapag 1, 2, 3, wala kang 1.5 sa discrete type of variable. So an example would be number of hospital beds. So wala ka naman sigurong 1/2 na hospital bed sa loob ng hospital. Ano? So yun yung type of discrete. So that's a discrete type of variable. Okay? Anything that doesn't have gaps in between. So walang 1/2, walang 1/4, walang decimal. So number of hospital beds, number of persons, yung mga ganon. So that's discrete type of variable. Discrete type of quantity variable. So you can further subclassify it pa pala to ratio or interval. So ano ba siya? Ratio discrete, ratio na continuous, interval na discrete, interval na continuous. Okay? So ayan. So those are the different types of variables. So you have any questions regarding the variables? Wala naman. Okay, so if may mga questions kayo, don't hesitate to, if maya kayo mag-voice out, you can chat sa ating chat box. I can see the chat box naman, so you can just put your questions there. All right. Sige, let's continue. So now we're done with the variables. Let's then proceed to our next objective for the lecture, which is on the discussion for on measures of central tendency, dispersion, and location. So let's start with measures of central tendency. So measures of central tendency in we have different measures for this one, and it actually it is, these measures are actually different types of average values, no? So we have three measures here. You have your mean, your median, and your mode. So very familiar. We are all probably quite familiar with these, no? Ulit-ulit lang naman to ever since siguro since elementary, since high school kayo. Meron na tayong discussion on mean, median, and mode, no? So mean is a usually we can use mean for quantity variables. Median as well we can use for quantity variables. While mode we can use for both quantity and quality type of variables. All right? So, ayan. Let's first talk about mode. Mode is just basically the frequently or the most occurring value in your data set. So, ano yung pinakapaulit-ulit sa data set mo? That's your mode. Okay, let's say in this example here, pinakamarami daw yung nag-select ng number 4 option. So, this is the mode of the data set. 4. Okay, so ano ba yung characteristic ng mode? So, mode doesn't need any calculation. It may not exist or may not be unique. So you may have, it may not exist, for example, let's say yung dataset mo pareha lahat. So pwedeng walang mode yun. Or probably you have dalawang nagtay na number or dalawang nagtay na value sa yung dataset, so that you will have a bimodal na dataset. So seldom it is used for statistical inference. So minsan lang siya ginagamit for statistical inference. Only ginagamit for mga categorical variables most of the time. Next, we have your median. So median, it's really the middle value of your data set. So that's why it's called median. So middle value of the data set. So yun lang siya. So ibig sabihin, half of the data set should be below the median, while half of the data set should be above the median since nasa center ito. No? So median, if it's easy if you have an an odd numbered data set, kasi kung ano yung nasa gitna na value, then that's your median. However, if you have an even numbered na data set, what you need to do is that you will add the 2 in the middle and then you divide it by 2, then there you will have your median. So in this sense, the median for this data set would be 4 plus 5 divided by 2. So 9 divided by 2, that's around 4.5. So what are the characteristics of your median? Median does not make use of all the observation in its computation. So again, because we are just looking at this value here, so we do not consider all other values on the sides of this number 6 here, or this 4 and 5 here. So we do not make use of all the observation when we compute for median. And ito yung pinaka-importante, it is not influenced by extreme observation. So regardless, for example, meron kang 100 here. So if this is 100, will your median change? So why 100 siya? Yan. Will this median change? Of course, hindi, right? So your median will still be 4 and 4 plus 5 divided by 2. So it is not affected by extreme values, or even if kahit may -1 ito, it will not affect your median. Kasi we are just looking at, again, the middle values of your data set. So it is easy to determine if the number of your observations is relatively small. So, well, right now, easy na pa rin naman kahit malaki yung data set mo kasi we have softwares to compute for the mode, or even these three measures in mean, median, and mode. So even sa Excel, you can actually compute for your mode already. All right, so that's for median. Now let's continue. Let's proceed sa mean. So what is a mean? So this one is, I guess, all of us are using this, no? Palagi natin ginagamit yung mean most of the time, even in our daily lives, no? Minsan ginagamit, nagko-compute tayo ng mga average, no? Especially sa mga scores natin sa exams. Okay, so mean, meron siyang dalawang ginagamit na symbol to symbolize mean. Sometimes we encounter mu, sometimes we encounter x bar. So what's the difference between the two? Mu is used for population mean, while x bar is used for sample mean. So mean is calculated as in adding up the values and then dividing it with the total number of samples in your your total number of sample or total number of elements in your population. So that's mean. So average. So it is the most commonly used measure of central tendency for quantity variables. And ito yung kanyang formula, if you would want to check the formula. So it's just a summation of all variables divided by the sample or the population. So ano yung characteristics ng mean? So mean, of course, it involves all observations in its computation. Therefore, it is sensitive to extreme observation because we are considering all the observations when we compute for our mean. So in our example earlier, if may 100 ka dyan, of course, it will affect your mean. Kasi nga, hihilahin niya yung mean mo towards 100. So yun lang yung thing with mean. If you have outliers, it will really be pulled by the outliers. So very important to consider or to double check really your data, especially when you're conducting your research. Baka mahila yung sample mean mo because of an outlier na supposedly hindi naman siyang dapat isali sa iyong final data kasi nga error siya. So that's why it's very important when you to do data editing. So data editing, by the way, doesn't mean that you will tamper your data. Data editing is just cleaning your data before you actually subject it to statistical analysis. Okay. So the thing with mean is that because very siya, no, it involves all the values of your data set, it has good statistical properties. All right, now let's relate the levels of measurements with the different measures of central tendency. So may interval ratio, same lang yan sila. I mean, same lang sila ng answer here. So nominal, again, for mode, you can only for nominal rather level of measurement, you can only use mode to analyze it. Mga nominal categories. We cannot really compute for median, of course, and mean for them. Ordinal, on the other hand, we can somehow compute for the median kasi may order nga siya, so we can somehow check for the median, the most frequently occurring value among the different options na may order of things. And then we can also compute for of course for interval, we can compute for everything. For interval and ratio, for quantity variables, we can use all of these measures of central tendency. All right, so that's for measures of central tendency. Now let's go to the next measure. Measures of location. So measures of location, it's just technically it provides us, kumbaga, the location of a certain variable in your data set. So it provides the exact details about the part of the entire distribution of observations in a given data set. So examples of which are quartiles, deciles, and percentiles. So there are more to this, but we will just be discussing these three kasi ito sila yung medyo hindi naman laging ginagamit, but ito yung laging na-encounter natin. No? So first, let's talk about quartiles. So quartiles are points in your data set that divides the observations. For example, if you have, let's say, this data set, so quartiles are points in this data set that will divide your data set into 4 equal parts. Therefore, you have 3 quartiles para ma-divide siya into 4, right? So you have this one, the lower quartile, which is Q1. Here in this data set, this example, it's 35. And of course, your Q2 would be the median. So that's 42 plus 47 divided by 2. That's your Q2. And your Q3 would be your upper quartile, which is 62 in this example. So it mark the three values that divide the data set into 4 equal parts. So yun na yung iyong quartiles. Okay, so first quartile, second quartile, and third quartile. All right, so when you talk about quartiles, it is also important to discuss about the interquartile range, because interquartile range can actually show us how dispersed our data is din, no? Pwede din niyang masabi kung gaano kalat yung data natin, gaano kalaki, ka-wide yung differences ng data. Kasi we can actually check for the values here, no? We can compute, no? And check kung gaano ka-wide yung difference nila. So, how do we compute for the RQR? It's just Q3 minus Q1. So that's your interquartile range. So within that range, you will find the middle 50% of the values of their data set. So this is an example of the computation of your IQR. So you will just basically be obtaining your Q1 and Q3, then you compute for your IQR. So that's Q3 minus Q1. So in this example, around 6. So ganun ka dispersed yung middle values nila by 6 units. Okay, so ayan. All right, so that's for quartiles. So deciles, decade, ano ba yung meaning ng pag sinabi mong decade, di ba 10 years? So deciles divides your data set into 10 equal parts. Right? Yung meaning ng deciles. Then you also have your percentile. Ano bang pinaka-common example na na-encounter natin sa percentile? Yung ating NMAT scores. Remember, they are expressed in percentile. So percentile is actually a way or a way to locate data in which we divide our data set into 100 equal parts. Okay, so ibig sabihin, if you have a percentile rank of 90, nandun ka sa upper 10% ng mga takers ng exam among the different scores that they have obtained from the exam. So nandun ka sa upper 90, upper 10%. Okay, so yeah. So or ibig sabihin, 90% of the takers had lower grades sa'yo, while 10% had higher grades sa'yo. So because you are there sa 90th percentile. All right, so comparing these three levels of measurement, as you can see, they have points wherein they actually intersect. So Q1 or the first quartile is actually your 25th percentile. Your Q2 is your 50th percentile or the median. Your Q3 is your 75th percentile. While for deciles naman, your first decile is actually your 10th percentile and so on. And here in the middle, all of these three will actually meet. So the second percentile is equal to the fifth decile is equal to the 50th percentile, which is actually your median for your data set. Okay, so these are the different measures of location. All right, now let's proceed. Let's talk about the measures of variability. So ano ibig sabihin ng measures of variability? So these are the different measures in which that shows us how dispersed or how widely dispersed or variable our data set is. So sometimes it is also called your measures of dispersion. Okay, so same lang yan sila. So when you talk about variability, it is a very important aspect in descriptive stat because it can measure how much our data set is dispersed from the center, around the center. So why is it important to determine variability? Because some data sets may exhibit the same measures of central tendency, but they only differ in their variability. That's why we use analysis of yung mga variability nila, like your analysis of variance. We use for that ANOVA is used for multiple samples, no? But we also have different tests that we can use, no, for analyzing the difference between the variance of two different of two different variables lang. Okay, so yeah, in this example, as you can see, most of their values have almost the same mean. and probably almost the same median kasi medyo normal yung distribution, no? And walang skewing dito sa kanilang values. So most of the values are concentrated here in the middle. So probably mean, median, and modes are the same. However, as you can see, medyo sample A has a flatter curve, sample B medyo nasa middle, while sample C has a more steep na curve. So ibig sabihin, in terms of variability of the values, medyo ano siya, no? Medyo mas variable si sample A compared to B compared to C. So, yan, you can have again the same measures of central tendency, but the variability of data is different. So that's why it's very important for us to measure variability as well. Of course, because it will affect the accuracy and the precision of our data, and of course the reliability of our study. All right, so what are the different measures of variability? First, we have range. We also have your interquartile range, which we have discussed already earlier. And we have your standard dev, your variance, and your CV, or the coefficient of variation. Let's talk about them one by one. So range, ito, medyo madali ito, no? Alam na natin to siguro, no? Range lang talaga siya. Kung ano yung lowest value sa dataset mo and the highest value of your dataset. That's your range, mean and max value. So IQR, we have discussed it already. So let's proceed directly to variance. Ano ba yung variance? Ano ba talaga yung variance? And I'm sure you have encountered this already and you have computed probably during your college days yung mga variance values, yung mga ganun. So variance is the square of the sum of the squared deviations from the mean. So if you look at the formula, if i-dissect mo yung formula, you would actually appreciate ano ba talaga yung variance na yan. Sinasabi dito is the square of the sum of the square deviations from the mean. So we are actually looking at how far each value is from the mean. That's why ang formula niya is the variable minus the mean, and then we square it. So bakit kailangan siya i-square? So that we can have positive values para hindi siya magiging negative, no, when we actually compute, no, para we can have, para equal positive lahat before we get the kumbaga the average of the distances of all of these values, because we are not actually concerned kung negative or positive. We are just looking at how many units away from the mean is this specific variable. So yun na yung tinitingnan natin, no? How far that specific variable is from the mean. We are not concerned about negative ba siya or positive ba yung distance niya from the mean. Yun lang yung tinitingnan ng variance, gaano lang kalayo. So that's why we square it para maging positive before we get the average of everything. So kaya ganyan yung formula ng variance. Okay? So although different lang siya, for population we use n directly, but for sample we get n minus 1. It's just a statistical computation para lang ma-equalize in sample ito. So yan. Okay, so yan lang yung kanilang difference. So yeah, let's have an example. So from a class, so let's say you have from a class of 20 and you took a sample of 5 students and you had this different quiz scores. So it's 8, 6, 10, 4, and 7. So the question is how compute for the variance of their scores. So by the way, questions like these, so yung mga computation of measures of central tendency, dispersion, yung mga ganon, mind you, it's still they still come out of the board exam. It's still a board exam question. Although very basic, no, kung yung una-unaon madali lang, ay kanang basic man kayo, no, ay kanang nakalimot naman ko ana. But you need to really understand all of these kasi nga it's still usually asked sa board exam. Let me know if medyo may problem sa internet connection ko, ha. If hindi niyo ako marinig. All right. Anyway, so yun, it's still a board exam question. That's why I still would want to highlight this one on how to compute for all of these things. I mean, the earlier ones, madali lang naman sila i-compute. Pero ito lang variance and standard dev, medyo nahihirapan. So when I took the board exam, we were actually asked to compute for the standard dev. So that's why even the past few batches, may mga computations pa rin ng mga certain easy or mga basic na statistical na mga values. So that's why I would want really to highlight this one here in the discussion. All right. So yeah, anyway, variance. So the question is to compute for the variance for these 5 scores. So how do you compute? Again, we will use this formula. Why? Because it is from a sample. So it's n minus 1. So hindi lang siya n. So ang n na minus 1 natin dito is 5. So minus 1, that's 4. Okay. So how do you compute for the variance? You just find the mean, so which is 7 in this case, and then you subtract the mean from each score. So yan. So may mga, as you can see, may mga negative values, no? But again, we are not interested with whether negative or positive yung relationship niya or distance niya away from the mean. What we would want to check is really just the distance. So that's why we would want to square everything para maging positive yung negative values. And then from there, we find the sum of all of these values, and then we divide it with n minus 1 since it is sample. So the answer would be 5 in this case. Sorry, 4. Oh yeah, 5 minus 1, that's 4. So it's 5. Okay, so that's the answer for this example. Okay, now remember that when we compute for the variance, ang iyong unit magiging ano siya, for this, of course, it's quiz score. So probably this is points, no, 5 points. So 5 points, magiging squared siya kasi you squared it here eh. So magiging squared yung final mo na sample variance. That's why yung symbol din ng variance mo is sigma squared or s squared. Okay? So ibig sabihin yung value dito would be 5 points squared. So you can't really directly compare it with your mean. Di ba? Minsan when we show variance, we put the value of the mean plus minus your standard deviation. So hindi natin pwedeng ilagay mean plus minus variance. Why? Again, because naka-square yung unit of measurement dito sa variance mo. So to remove that square, we compute for the standard deviation. So we standardize it by putting a square root to your formula para matanggal yung square doon sa iyong unit ng iyong value ng variance. So since naka-square na siya, yung 5 points mo, it will become square root of 5 points na lang. Wala na yung point squared. So we can actually put that in our we can actually compare that with our mean. So magiging mean plus minus. So the scores are 7 plus minus square root of 5 points. So yun yung significance bakit kailangan nating i-compute yung standard deviation. All right? So it's just basically the square root of your variance. All right. Now, another measure of variation is called coefficient of variation or CV. So CV is just the ratio of standard dev to its mean. So standard dev over mean times 100, that's your coefficient of variation. So why do we need to measure for coefficient of variation? Ano bang purpose ni coefficient of variation? So usually we use this if the unit of measurement of two or more variables are not the same, and we would want to compute or gauge the variability of or the differences in the variability between these two different variables. No? An example would be ito, height and weight. Let's say we obtain the values for height and weight, and we obtain the mean and then the standard deviation. Then we would want to check, ano ba yung mas variable na data dito sa aking dataset, yung height or yung weight, given the standard dev. If you just look at the standard dev, para makita mo na baka mas variable si height kasi malaki yung standard dev niya 10. Si weight, baka maliit yung, hindi masyado ganun kalaki yung variability kasi it's just 5. However, if you compute for the coefficient of variability, you would see a true picture of how varied talaga, how far is your standard dev from your mean. So for height, it's around 5.9 pala since 10. So since you will be computing for, since it is 10 over 170 times 100, so around 5.9. So weight pala, it's around 7.1. So initially, ang na-consider mo, si height yung mas varied yung data. But however, when you compute for the CV, si weight pala. So the CV is around 7.1. So mas variable yung data ni weight compared to height. Okay, so ibig sabihin, the higher the CV, the more heterogeneous is the variable of interest. All right, that's the significance of coefficient of variation. I hope that's clear, no? So, yeah. So, any questions about the measures? Wala namang tanong sa measures? Sige, if mahiya kayo, you can just put your questions sa chat, ha? Or probably after the lecture, you can message me sa Telegram. All right, let's continue. So a very good or a very useful tool that we use in descriptive stat is of course yung ating tools of data presentation. tables, and graphs. So what's the purpose of data presentation ba? So the purpose of this one is to communicate information about the data to a potential user, sorry, and therefore it should be clear, concise, and direct to the point. It should encourage analytical thinking of the reader, and it must refrain from distorting the data set that you have. So um, that's mainly the purpose of data presentation. So again, dapat clear, direct to the point yung mga figures mo and your tables. It should not only show the data, but encourage critical thinking. So dapat pagtingin ng viewer mo, somehow makapag-isip-isip siya, makapag-compare siya, makapag-analyze siya ng distributions and everything. And it must refrain from distorting rather data. So kung ano yung nasa dataset mo, be careful when you present it already in graphs kasi dapat sakto yung figures na nandun sa graph. Kasi pag hindi, then you will be distorting your dataset. So be very careful about that. All right, so we have certain or different methods of data presentation. You have your narrative, tabular, and your graphical. So let's first discuss narrative presentation. So narrative, by the name itself, it's just merely narrating everything, narrating your data, narrating what you have in your results. So it makes use of textual descriptions of your variables, uses statements with few figures only of summary measures, and it complements data presented as tables or graphs. So again, it just complements your data presented as tables and graphs. It doesn't describe your table and graph. It only complements. All right. So when you say complement, so dapat yung mga nasa narration mo, highlighting lang good ng results and ang mga significant figures lang that you need for your discussion and the next part of your research. So yun lang naman yung purpose ng narrative presentation. So a very common mistake among students is that kapag may table, ang ginagawa, dinidescribe lahat ng nandun sa table. So that's not how you do narrative, okay? So the purpose of your narrative, again, if for example, you have a table and you would want to highlight a certain result from your table, that's the time that you put it in as narrative. No? So among the, let's say, among the blah 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 of the among the different variables, variable y has the highest score among the participants. So ganun lang, enough na yun siya. I don't need to describe everything, yung mga gusto mo lang i-highlight sa table mo, kasi the reader can already see it sa table mo. Why would you discuss it pa? So we don't need very long discussions, no, lalo na sa results part of your paper. You just need to see it doesn't mean na mahaba yung discussion mo sa result, maganda yung paper mo. Hindi ganoon. Dapat mas precise, mas direct to the point, mas maganda yung paper. No? So yun, remember that. So an example of a narrative presentation is parang ganito. No? So 76% of 1,283 survey respondents have been exposed to the risk factors at least once during the past year. So yan na, period. And then you don't have to put na 24%, we're not exposed. So hindi na yung kailangan, just present it this way. That's enough. Unless you would want to highlight something out of that 24%, like out of the 24% who were not exposed, 10% were blah, 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 blah. So yun lang. That's the only time you discuss further. But if yun na naman ang gusto mong sabihin na yung ganun karami yung exposed, then that's enough. Okay, so that's your narrative presentation. Now let's go to tabular presentation. Now what's the purpose of tabular presentation? So tables provide a compact way of presenting large sets of information. It can directly point out trends in the value of a variable, comparisons between variable categories, and interrelationships among variables. Okay, so a table is an orderly arrangement of statistical data into rows and columns, and it is supposed to be self-explanatory. So don't put tables na hindi naman kayang i-explain hindi naman kayang intindihin ng inyong audience, target audience. Or hindi naman tayo mismo minsan hindi natin kaya intindihin yung mga tables na ginagawa natin. So make sure that your tables are self-explanatory or kayang i-interpret ng tao, ng third person who are not, or those people who are not involved in your research. Okay? So, ganoon naman lagi. When we write researches, when we write papers, just make sure na kumbaga, kung pwede nga, mas procedural yung pag-discuss mo ng paper mo, mas maganda. Mas simplified, mas maganda para maintindihan ng reader. Okay? So the readers won't really check naman kung how technical your paper is eh. The most important thing in a paper is that kaya siyang intindihin, no? Yun naman yung pinaka-importante, no? A good paper is something that anyone can understand. So, yan yun. Okay, so dapat self-explanatory yung inyong um, tables. So tables are sometimes used for summarizing and presenting data. That's what we usually do. And sometimes we use tables for data checking and editing. So while we are doing our researches, we can actually use tables, diba? Very useful right now in Google Sheets. We use Google Sheets to automatically somehow check whether okay pa yung data natin or hindi na. So doon natin ini-encode yung ating mga results basis in the construction of graphs and charts. So, ito, di ba, when you create a graph in Microsoft Excel, for example, or even in Google Sheet, it usually starts with a table. And from that table, magko-convert siya into a graph. So, it is the basis in the construction of graphs and charts. Okay, so what are the different parts of a table? So number one, very important, the table number. Depending on the position niya sa document mo or sa PowerPoint mo, you will put the table number. And of course, you need to put your title. So ito, minsan dito yung nagkakaroon ng problema. Minsan nahihirapan gumawa ng title. Well, right now you can actually access ChatGPT to create the table title for you if mahirapan talaga kayo, no? So at least you have that tool right now. But anyway, if you would want to create your own title, the title should be a brief statement about it. Excuse me, the table presented, and it should be as complete as possible and should relate to the content of your table. So it should answer the questions what, who, where, and when in relation to your table, whichever is applicable. So yan yung that's how you create your title. So later on, I'll show you a good table title. And other parts of the table would include your box head, which is, ito yung tawag pala sa column heading ng table. No? It's called a box head. Then you have your stub, the row headings, and you have the body wherein you have all of the data set that you have. And then the footnotes, if you have any, it depends, no? In a case-to-case basis, minsan may footnote tayo, minsan wala naman. So ito yung usually nilalagay na asterisk, tapos nilalagay na asterisk below, tapos naka-italics yung footnote. And then of course, if you've taken your table from another study or from a different source, so we usually put the source of data. Okay, so that's those are the basic elements of a table. So this is an example of a good table. So you have your table title, you have a table number, and then you have table title. So ito, marital status of women between 15 and 44 years old or women of reproductive age in Barangay X, Y City 2023. So it's very complete, no? So nandyan yung what, who, where, and when. And then you have your box head, your stubs, your body, and you have your source. So here hindi naman kailangan ng footnote kasi wala namang special na mga something here. So notes, so walang footnote ito. Again, depende lang talaga. And of course, the source sometimes wala siya. It depends. Okay? So yeah, that's how you create your table. So ayan. Another example of a table here. So you have your actually, this table may kulang sa table na to, no? So, remember, when you have a table like this, lalo na kapag big yung numbers here, it's important that you put percentages. So, never describe the variable using absolute numbers. So, we can only use absolute numbers. Well, for our institution, ang rule is, if your N or your population size or sample size is more than or equal to 50, we should add percentages. Okay. It depends on the institution. Sometimes, well, when I took my master's in UP, ang limit naman is 30. But for DMSF graduate school, it's 50. Okay, so 50 yung limit. So if your N is equal to 50, then you put percentages. However, if it's less than 50, then that's the time that you use absolute numbers. Okay. So total should also be shown. Okay, dapat nakalagay yung mga total. So that table should somehow look like this. So yan yung percent, and then you have the totals here below. So another example of a table here, ayan. So sometimes, not all the time that we need to put the totals, especially if if let's say the options of your category, if the respondent can actually choose more than two options from your categories. So let's say here's a risk behavior. So one person can actually have two or more risky behaviors. So there's no need to put the total, kasi if you put the total here, since yung isang tao pwede siyang mag-choose ng dalawa, pwedeng maging more than 100 yung percent mo. So there's no need to put the total kasi it doesn't mean anything. Okay, even here you don't need to put the total here. All right, so you just put, sometimes we put a footnote, multiple response, kulang lang ng asterisk here, so we just put a footnote here. Okay, so again, there are some instances wherein the totals may not be shown, so the variables, the variable is a multiple response question. If you add the total, it is not more than 100. So note that the tables are appropriate for also for qualitative, only for qualitative variables, right? So tables, usually we use them for quali variables. However, sometimes we can actually use quanti variables like age. Pero di natin automatically nilalagay yung age. Hindi naman pwedeng 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tapos may number dito, di ba? That's too much. What we usually do is we categorize the quantity variable into certain categories. Like here, we have age groups. Then we put the frequency among the different age and then the percentages. So that's how you can actually put a quantity variable into a table by converting them into categories. So you can use tables for quantity variables, but you need to create categories of the variable. In the previous table, you have categories of similar age, of age similar to a qualitative variable. So age group is not truly quantity variable anymore. So nagiging quantity siya na categorical variable. So you can use proportion in describing the different age groups. All right. So sometimes we can also put compare rather two different variables using a table. So like in this case, frequency of condom use versus type of sex worker. So then makikita natin yung frequency among all of these two variables of the different respondents. So we can also do or compare or show a relation somehow, sort of a relationship between two variables using tables. So that's how flexible your tables are. No? So that is an example of a two-way table. You may describe one variable in relation to another variable. Actually, you can sometimes put three or more lalo na kapag related talaga sila, no? Depende sa variables mo. Okay. So that's for your table. Next, let's discuss now graphical presentation. So another method of data presentation, you have graphical presentation. So you have different graphs, different charts that we can use for our data set to present our data set, no? So graphical presentation is, of course, the use of different pictorial presentations or graphs to effectively communicate certain characteristics of your data set. So it visually summarizes your large data set and it underscores a particular statement about that data set. So it appeals to visual memory, no? Of course, no, kapag nakita mo table, parang boring man ibasahon, eh. But if you see graphs, you will get a bit interested, di ba? If you see graphs in there, let's say yung mga poster presentation, pag nakita mong graph, it catches your attention. So, but always remember that tables are more precise than graphs. Okay, your graphs are very limited when showing data sets, so be very careful about that. So try nyo i-determine, pwede lang ba graph to? Or should I really put a table para mas magandang presentation yung data? Mas maganda ma-present yung data? Depende, okay? So always remember that one. And it is easy to misinterpret results, twist facts, or oversimplify situations when you use graphs. So again, case-to-case basis, if you think that your data or the data from the table can be easily or can be transformed into a graph and will still say the same thing, then you can do that. But if not, stick to your table. So, yun. So one way of graphical presentation or what is through the use of pie charts. So a pie chart is a circle subdivided into slices, each of which represents the relative proportion of data falling into a given category. So we use pie charts for quali variables with 6 or less categories. So if you have more than that na kasi na categories, yung pie chart mo magmumukhang ewan, no? So sobrang daming slices and it doesn't mean anything. So mahirap siyang i-interpret. So we usually encourage the use of pie charts if you have 6 or less categories, or depending on your mentor din. Usually magdepende siya sa ano, no, sa decision ng mentor nyo. But as a general rule, we can actually consider 6 or less categories. Dapat ding ilagay as pie chart. And the objective of your pie chart is to just basically show distribution of your population to different categories. So the thing with pie charts is that your data set must be, or the variable must be mutually exhaustive and exclusive. So ibig sabihin, exhaustive siya. So ibig sabihin, lahat from your samples should belong to a category, and it should be mutually exclusive. Ibig sabihin, one respondent should only belong to one category. So that's what is important when you use pie chart. Always think about that. Dapat isang tao, isang category lang, and dapat lahat ng nasa respondents ko, I can classify them among all to any of these categories. Okay, so an example would be this one. So percentage distribution of Filipino male commercial sex workers by frequency of condom use. So always, often, sometimes, never. So wala naman sigurong tao na hindi maka-answer nito, no? I mean, wala naman sigurong respondent from this study na hindi makaka-answer nito. So the category here is mutually is exhaustive, and it is also mutually exclusive. Wala naman sigurong always tapos never. Yung condom use, no? Always and never. Pwede ba yun? So, yeah, one person should only belong to one category. So this chart is actually appropriate for this data set. All right. Next, we have bar graphs. So bar graphs consist of bars, of course, of the same width drawn horizontally or vertically, depending on the type of bar graph, with gaps between bars to emphasize discontinuity between data classes. So you have two types here. You have your horizontal bar graph, and you also have your vertical bar graph. So let's first talk about the horizontal one. So horizontal bar graphs, in a horizontal bar graph, the categories of the variable may be arranged either by magnitude of corresponding figures or natural ordering. So but we usually use magnitude of corresponding figures, but we can also arrange it according to their natural ordering of things. But mas maganda siya pag naka-magnitude of corresponding figures. So we can only do natural ordering kapag ordinal yung categorical variable mo. So or if it's ordinal. So usually what we the variables that we express or that we show using this type of bar graph are qualitative variables that are categorical. So the objective of this is to show distribution and comparison among the different variables or the different respondents of your study. So an example would be this one: distribution of firecracker-related injuries by barangay in Municipality Z. So as you can see, pwede mo siyang i-arrange from highest to lowest. Okay, pwede ring alphabetical, pero mas maganda yung comparison kapag highest to lowest. And then, since hindi naman to siya ordinal variable, so highest to lowest na lang yung arrangement mo. And as you can see, you will really appreciate na kung gaano karami yung or gaano kalaki yung frequency compared to the different barangays ng Barangay Maligaya. So we can show distribution as well as we can do comparison using horizontal bar graphs. So this is another way, another example. So as you can see, you can actually use more than one. You can actually show more than one variable in a horizontal bar graph or even in any bar graphs. Okay, even if in vertical pwede din. So there are actually other types of bar graphs pa, like component bar graph and so on, but ito lang dalawa yung papakita ko since ito yung mas common na ginagamit. All right, so another type of bar graph is this one, the vertical bar graph. So in a vertical bar graph, the categories of the variable will have to be arranged according to their natural ordering of things, because what we use here are actually mostly quali variables that are ordinal and that are discrete in nature. So of course, kapag ordinal yung quali variable mo, discrete talaga yan. No? Wala namang 1/2 na na score dyan sa ordinal variable mo. Objective of this graph is to show distribution and comparison as well, just like your horizontal bar. So as you can see here, you would see na may order siya, no? Number of dependents, 0, 1, 2, 3, tapos ito, more than 3. So ayan, you would really see how varied the numbers are. So In this case, pwede naman siyang hindi naka-arrange ng magnitude. Pwede naman mas malaki to si 2, mas malaki si 3. Kasi we are more concerned about the natural ordering of things here in your x-axis. When you have values like 0 sa inyong study or whatever it is that you would want to show, like this one, yung less than 3, 0 siya, di ba? You can just actually remove this part of your graph and just show ito lang. No? So there's no need to show 0 values in your graph. All right? So that's one thing that you need to remember kapag may mga graphical presentations kayo. Kapag 0 yan, tanggalin nyo na, especially if hindi naman niya ma-affect yung total, yung full na itsura ng graph nyo. Unless, for example, yung 1 yung 0, hindi nyo man pwede tanggalin yung 1 kasi ano yan siya, order yan siya. So, pwede nyo siyang i-retain pa rin. Pero in this case kasi, 0 yung more than 3, so it doesn't really change, no? It won't really change your the interpretation of this bar graph. So, tanggalin nyo na lang siya. Alright. That's for your bar graph. Now we have the histogram. So, histogram, it appears similar to your bar graph. However, may continuity between the bars. It is there to signify that the variables in your x-axis are continuous variables. Is a continuous variable. So that's why when we use histogram for quantity variables that are continuous. Okay, so quantity variable that are continuous, and the objective of a histogram is to show distribution. And before I show you an example of a histogram, let's just have a short discussion about the frequency polygon, which is almost similar to your histogram. However, the difference lang ni frequency polygon is that instead of showing bars, you will be showing a polygon in your graph. How do you create the polygon? You just put points in the middle of your bars sa histogram mo, and then you connect them, then you will have your frequency polygon. Okay? So, same pa rin, quantity, continuous, and shows distribution. So, these are the two different, ito yung dalawang graphs, yung histogram versus frequency polygon. So, yan yung histogram mo, continuous variable na quantity. So, pwede mo rin tanggalin ito. Wala naman itong naman dito eh. So, yan. And this is the frequency polygon. So, how did you recreate the frequency polygon?
Recording stopped.
You put points here, another point here, and one other point, and then you connect them together. And that's your frequency polygon. So other studies would actually want to compute for the area here, or depende siya sa objective ng inyong study. And if that area will actually have a significance sa study nyo, then you can actually compute for the area below the frequency polygon. All right. So that's for the frequency polygon and the histogram. Now let's go to the very abused na graph, line graph. Line graph, minsan ginagamit ng mga students, no, kahit hindi naman time trend yung pinapakita, yung magamit ng line graph kasi maganda tingnan, no? But remember that line graph, we only use line graph to demonstrate changes in a variable over time. So, we only use line graph kapag yung x-axis mo is time. So, kasi yung main objective ng iyong line graph is to show trend through time. So, remember that when you only use line graph kapag you would want to show the differences, or if you would want to show a trend through time. For example, this one, trends of cancer mortality rates per year. So, pwede nyo ilagay dito yung number of cases, tapos yung trend, no, through time. Ito yung year. And you can also show multiple variables in a line graph like this one here. Lagyan nyo lang ng legend, and then you will have now your line graph here. So, ganun. So, that's the use of your line graph. I hope that's clear, no? Dili lang kayo I have seen some kasi ng mga students who are using line graph just for the sake of using it, kahit hindi naman, kahit categorical yung kanilang x-axis. So, be very careful. Dapat ano lang siya. For showing, ano lang talaga to siya. For showing time trend. Alright. Then, you have your scatter plot. What's the use of your scatter plot? Scatter plot shows the relationship between quantity variables. So, dalawang quantity na variable na continuous. Alright? So, we use scatter plot for two quantity variables that are continuous in nature. So, we use, again, quantity continuous. We use scatter plot. So, it estimates the type and degree of correlation between the variables. So, if graph lang siya, you can just merely estimate. However, you can somehow compute then for their exact correlation by doing by computing for the person's correlation coefficient, yung mga R squared, yung mga ganun, you can do that one to compute for their exact talaga na correlation if meron talaga or wala. So the objective of your scatter plot is to show association between variables. So since descriptive stat lang naman tayo, you will just interpret your scatter plot using descriptive ways. So kapag nakita niyo yung scatter plot niyo, medyo nagkakagulo yung mga dots, then you can somehow say na, ay, walay correlation na. However, if very almost nagpo-form ng line yung inyong what's this data set, then probably it's a strong positive or strong negative correlation. If medyo line siya pero medyo bungkag gamay, so some positive siguro or some negative correlation. So that's how you interpret scatter plot just by visual method lang. Okay? So yeah, scatter plot. So again, we only use tables and graphs according to, not just because maganda yung aesthetics nila, but there is a proper use for each of these different type of of graphs and different types of tables that we have. So for quali, we can use tables, pie chart, horizontal bar graph. For quanti naman, we can use tables, vertical, line graph, histogram, frequency polygon, stem and leaf plot, or box plot. So these are the different types of tables and graphs. Just some of them. There are actually more to this one. These are the basics lang. And make sure that when you're using a different type of graph, make sure that you know how to use it, and be sure na appropriate siya sa dataset na meron kayo. All right? So, yeah. Before we end, just a short exercise. So maybe you can answer this one. Type nyo lang sa chat box. So in demonstrating that the risk for diabetes increases as the waist circumference of a person widens, what type of graph will you use for this question? Sige nga, anyone? Type nyo lang sa chat box. So again, risk of diabetes and waist circumference of a person. So number one thing to do is to check kung ano yung variables. Yan, very good. It's a scatter plot. Bakit? Kasi risk of diabetes, this one is a continuous variable, right? Continuous siya. Why? Because yung risk naman, pwede mo siya i-express through risk ratio, which then you can actually have 3.5, 4.5 na risk, right? And then waist circumference, how do you measure that? In centimeters, which is also a continuous variable. So we use a scatter plot for this one. Very good. Now, second question, anong answer dito? Frequency of AGE pala, sorry. Per barangay in municipality X. What type of graph should we use for this one? Frequency of acute gastroenteritis per barangay in municipality Y. Ano kayong proper dito? Graph na gamitin. So you have a quali variable that is somehow, then you would want to compare, right, for among different barangays. Ano ba yung example kanina na may mga barangay? What type of graph? Bar graph, very good. So bar graph, what specific bar graph? Horizontal or vertical? Ayan, very good. Horizontal bar graph. Kasi we would want to compare. Tapos, kasi we only use vertical, di ba, para sa siya, sa if the x-axis is a ordinal variable na numbers. So we can use that one. But here kasi pwede natin siya i-disarrange So mas maganda si si horizontal. Yes, very good yung vertical. Tama. For ordering or ranking, mas maganda si vertical. But for like, if categorical nominal naman yung variable mo and you would just like to compare the frequency among all of those variables, then you can do horizontal bar graph. Very good. Nice. So next, to identify what proportion of average individual health expenditure is out of pocket. Proportion of average individual health expenditure is out of pocket. Ano kaya yung magandang chart? Very good, pie chart. Congratulations. So pie chart ang magandang gamitin for this one. So that's it for this lecture. Yun, that's the last slide. Any questions? Clarifications? Wala namang tanong? Sige. If none, then that's it for today's lecture. So I hope you've learned a lot. So madali lang naman si descriptive stat. I think mas mahihirapan kayo sa comparative stat. But yeah, descriptive stat is very basic. And yun. If you have any questions, again, just message me lang, ha. I think you will have this as your part of your evals, I think, next week, tama ba? Or next week? On week 3. So, yeah, good luck. Study well kayo. Dali lang naman ang descriptive stat. So that's it for this afternoon. I hope you've learned a lot. And by the way, the lecture for the SDGs, I will open na lang tonight. Open ko na sa inyo tonight after this lecture. Okay. Thank you. You can access it na. Sige. Bye-bye. Have a great week.
Doc.
And bye-bye.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you,
Thank you
Doc.
po, Doc.